and welcome to India Reads. We are starting a new book today, The Accidental Prime Minister by Sanjay Baru. Many of you all would have heard about the book. It was made into a movie this year. The movie did okay. It was released maybe about 4 5 months before the election, so it was a bit controversial. But I guess it's going to be an interesting book to read. I have seen the movie, so I know how the story goes. Of course, we all know how the story goes. We've been part of that part of, we've seen that part of India. That's what I was trying to say. Let's dive in directly into the book. I'm going to skip through the introductions because they're just boring and I don't care about them. Let's start with chapter 1. The call from PMO. It was approaching midnight on an early May night in 2004. Jane Dixit and I were in the studios of BBC on the top floors of AIFACS building on Rafi Marg in New Delhi, discussing how the result of the general elections, now in its final stages, would impact Indian foreign and economic policy. The election campaign had come alive in its last stages after having begun with the widespread assumption that the National Democratic Alliance government, led by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, would be returned to office. Vajpayee had advanced the election dates by 6 months in the hope of riding a wave of optimism about India's economic prospects, captured by the India Shining campaign mounted by his Bharatiya Janata Party, the leading party in the alliance. However, reports of suicide by cotton farmers in Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra had tarnished the NDA's image, and it now appeared that its battle with the principal opposition party, the Indian National Congress, would be closely fought. Dixit, known by his nickname Money, was a former foreign secretary and an outstanding one at that. After his retirement, he had joined the Congress party and guided party president Sonia Gandhi through the foreign policy debates of the early years of the new millennium. Until Mani Dixit joined her, Sonia Gandhi's principal advisor on foreign policy had been K. Natwar Singh, a diplomat who had worked closely with Indira Gandhi and then joined the Congress party. Natwar Singh was a quintessential Nehruvian and his thinking was shaped by the Cold War and India's policy of non-alignment. Mani Dixit's view, on the other hand, was shaped by the end of the Cold War and India's increased engagement with developed economies. As a foreign secretary during the Congress government headed by Narasimha Rao in the early 1990s, he had crafted India's response to the end of the Cold War and the collapse of its ally, the Soviet Union, authoring radical departures such as Rao's Look East policy and his openings to South Korea and Israel. In 2003, Mani Dixit had been authorized by Sonia Gandhi to draft an alternative view on foreign and national security policy and had put together a discussion group that included, among others, Manmohan Singh, then leader of the Congress party in the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of parliament, N. Vora, a retired defense secretary, K. Subramaniam, who was until his death in 2011 India's leading thinker on strategic affairs, and myself. I was then chief editor of the Financial Express. We would meet in the private dining room of the India International Center, a club favored by Delhi's policy elite. Since Mani had been given this new political task, I assumed he would play an important role if the Congress came into power in Delhi. I was therefore surprised to hear him ask the anchor of BBC studio that night to wind up the discussion since he had to leave Delhi in the morning to spend the summer in the hills. The elections would be soon over, and some expected the Congress party to form a government. Would you not prefer to remain in Delhi and see if they need you in the new government? I asked Mani curiously. He laughed the question off. He pointed that even if the Congress did come to power, Natwar Singh would be in the government, not him, and went on to ask, "You think we'll win?" I echoed the popular view around Delhi that the result would be narrow, but Prime Minister Vajpayee was likely to return to office. He agreed with me. As he walked out of the studio, I said to him cheerily, "You go to the hills, I'm off to DC." Neither of us could have imagined that on that May night, that within a month we would be colleagues in the PMO. It became clear just a day later that Sonia Gandhi had got enough seats to form a new coalition government led by the Congress party. Shortly before I flew to Washington, D.C. to speak at a conference organized by the historian Sunil Khilnani, I typed out an editorial comment that appeared on the 15th with the title Thoughts on a Government. It was typical of the editorials that editors like to write, advising politicians what they should do. My advice to the victorious Congress President Sonia Gandhi was simple: invite Dr. Manmohan Singh to take charge as the Prime Minister and make herself the chairperson of the Congress and Allies Coordination Committee that would oversee the functioning of the government. My suggestion that Dr. Singh be made the Prime Minister was not a new idea. I had floated it 5 years earlier, almost to that date, on 25th May 1999, in the column in the Times of India. This was shortly after Sonia Gandhi's failed attempt to form a Congress led coalition government after the fall of the BJP led government. She had famously She had famously and, as it turned out, erroneously announced, "We have 272 MPs and we hope to get more." Provocatively titled "The Perils of Sonia Gandhi as PM," my column advised Sonia to resist the temptation of claiming the job and instead name Manmohan Singh as PM, where Congress, where Congress to form a government. Reading my 2004 editorial, my journalist friends who had scoffed at me in 1999 for coming up with a wild idea were amused that I had not given up my campaign, as some saw it, to make Manmohan Singh Prime Minister. I was, however, looking at the issue from Sonia's point of view. She needed to bury the controversy over her Italian birth and retain control of the Congress party till her son or daughter was old enough to take charge. She required, therefore, a reliable, trustworthy, and capable head of government, a political leader who would always nur- nur- a political leader would always nurse political ambitions and perhaps seek to marginalize the Gandhi family. Hadn't Narasimha Rao, low profile though he was before he became PM, tried to strike out on his own once he assumed office? By this argument, senior Congress leaders and possible prime ministerial aspirants like Arjun Singh and Pranab Mukherjee were pretty much ruled out. Among the safer choices, few had the experience for the job. A.K. Antony, a Congress leader from Kerala whom Sonia Gandhi reportedly liked, did not, for example. So I surmised Dr. Singh stood out the best chance. On the day I arrived in DC, 15th May, news reports suggested that Sonia Gandhi was in two minds of whether or not to head the government that was now likely to be formed. Sycophantic as they were, the rank and file of the party demanded that she become Prime Minister. On the other hand, BJP leader Sushma Swaraj, who had campaigned vociferously against an Italian origin Prime Minister, was dramatically threatening to shave her head if Sonia did so. Over the next 2 days, the subject of government formation in Delhi dominated coffee and lunch break conversations at the conference I was attending. On 18th May, the last day of the conference, I shared the dais with Khilnani and Montek Singh Ahluwalia, an economist who had worked with Rajiv Gandhi and had been secretary in the finance ministry when Dr. Singh was a finance minister and was now with the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C. Montek spoke first. Shortly after he began speaking, I received an SMS message on my mobile phone from my colleague Rohit Bansal, resident editor of the Delhi edition of the Financial Express. It announced Sonia says she will not be PM. I thought to myself, step one, she will not be PM. Step two, she will make Dr. Singh the PM. When my turn came, I gave the audience the breaking news. Then I said mischievously that if Sonia named Manmohan Singh as PM, they might have just heard the future Principal Secretary to the Indian Prime Minister speak. I was referring, of course, to Montek. Not surprisingly, Montek was mobbed as soon as the session got over. Later that day, Sonia announced that Dr. Singh would head a coalition government. Next day, I met Montek and his economist wife Isher for lunch at the IMF headquarters. They were excited about the news from Delhi. All we talked about over lunch was what a Manmohan Singh prime ministership would mean for the country. While Isher had been Dr. Singh's student at the Delhi School of Economics, Montek's association with Dr. Singh dated back to the late 1970s when he returned to India after a stint at the World Bank to join the Ministry of Finance as an economic advisor. Dr. Singh at that time was a secretary in the Ministry of Finance and had encouraged Montek to form the government, to join the government. The two had worked together again in 1992 to 96 when Dr. Singh, by then finance minister in the Rao government, re-inducted Montek into the ministry. None of us spoke about what kind of role Montek expected to play. It was too early to engage in that kind of speculation. I did ask though if he had spoken to Dr. Singh, and he said he had called him and wished him. As we ordered dessert, I asked Montague if he would quit the IMF job and move to India. Of course, Isha replied for him instantly. I returned home just in time for the new government's swearing in ceremony at Rashtrapati Bhavan. It was the first I had witnessed Dr. Singh appear nervous and hesitant as he took the oath of office. There was celebratory air about the place with the Congress party leaders present in strength, happy as they were returning to power after 6 years. Few had, in fact, expected to win the elections, and many had been skeptical about the Congress' ability to stitch together a coalition. Dr. Singh's family, including his daughters and grandchildren, were present but kept a low profile. As soon as the ceremony ended, I tried to walk up to Dr. Singh and congratulate him, but unsurprisingly, he was surrounded by an eager throng of Congress party leaders, among them ministers clearly seeking good portfolios. They had not yet been allocated, and journalists. I managed to make eye contact and greet him with folded hands. He smiled. Moving away from the crowd milling about around the new PM, I wandered around the hall looking for news. Soon enough, I ran into Prithviraj Chauhan, a Congress party politician from Maharashtra, whom I have known for close to a decade. We were both regulars at the weekly lunch discussion groups, the Saturday group at the India International Center. Prithvi had just been sworn in at the Ministry of State, and I asked him if he knew what his new portfolio would be. Looking very pleased with himself, he told me that PM had confided in him that he would be a Ministry of State Finance. That was front page news. So who I quickly followed up would be the next new finance minister. Prithvi leaned closer to almost whisper into my ear. PM will retain finance. I had my headline. I sat up late into the night waiting for portfolios to be announced, but by the time we went to press, there was no official word. Finally, we ran the news that Dr. Singh would retain the finance portfolio and that Chavan would be named MOS Finance. The morning our story appeared, I had a call from P. Chidambaram, a senior Congress party leader who had served as finance minister in the short-lived coalition government formed in 1996. At that time, he belonged to a party that had broken away from the Congress and had returned to its fold shortly before the 2004 election. Some years earlier, he became a weekly columnist in my newspaper and remained one till he returned to power in May 2004. Is your report accurate? He asked me. I assured him that I had heard it from the horse's mouth. You mean the PM's? He asked me at once. No, the Ministry of State, I said. If the PM keeps finance, then will they give me? Chidambaram wondered aloud. I was amused and surprised to hear that question from the usually self confident Chidambaram. There was already speculation in the media that he would be given charge of commerce or telecommunications, and I mentioned that to him. He retorted angrily, Mr. Editor, I have been finance minister before. Do you think I'll accept anything less than that, less than a senior cabinet position? The finance minister sits along with the PM, the external affairs, defense, and home ministers on Raisina Hill. These are the leading occupants of Delhi's north and south blocks. They are all members of the Cabinet Committee on Security, CCS, a body that has seen its clout grow in an era of national security and nuclear power. So I asked Chidambaram, what would he do if he was not on the hill? I will sit on the backbenches, he declared. Good, I told him, pulling his leg. Then you can continue your weekly column with the FE. By the time the portfolios were announced that evening, the sands had shifted. Chidambaram was made finance minister. Prithviraj was made MOS in the PMO. I called Prithvi to find out what happened. He told me that the PM had been advised against keeping finance a heavy portfolio since his hands would be full managing the government and the coalition. But Prithvi was far from disappointed. Instead of MOS finance under Dr. Singh, he was now MOS in the PMO. He had entered the government's sanctum sanctorum. While Prithvi clearly owed his portfolio, if not his ministerial berth, to Dr. Singh, this was not the case with most of the new Council of Ministers. The Congress allies in the UPA one nominated their own ministers and bargained for their portfolios with Sonia, not with Dr. Singh. The bargaining process reflected the political reality on the ground. No matter how prominent a political leader was, he was not likely to get the portfolio he or his supporters wished for if his party did not have the numbers in the Lok Sabha, the lower house of parliament. Thus, Sharad Pawar, who had been defense minister in the Narasimha Rao's cabinet, could not climb Raisina Hill. Since his party, the Nationalist Congress Party, had only 9 seats in the new parliament, he had to be content with agriculture. On the other hand, Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, a political party that had won all 16 seats it contested in Tamil Nadu, made sure that it got key economic ministries with, to use a powerful phrase, rent-seeking opportunities. As for senior Congress leaders, they owed their cabinet posts almost entirely to Sonia Gandhi, who did, however, consult Dr. Singh and close aides before finalizing the names. When the Council of Ministers was reshuffled during the term of UPA 1, Dr. Singh did have more of a say, but even so, few of its members ever behaved as if they owed their ministerial positions to the PM. With time, even the loyalties of Prithviraj Chauhan, handpicked by Dr. Singh to serve his own office, became divided as he made sure that he was on the right side of the party's leader. Prithvi was Dr. Singh's protege, but he knew that his political career depended on demonstrating loyalty to Sonia and Rahul. Dr. Singh, far more politically astute than his detractors believed him to be, would have been well aware of the limits to the prime ministerial authority under such a dispensation. Prime ministers in earlier coalitions had also to share their power to nominate ministers with leaders of coalition parties. While his predecessor, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, had been able to assert himself quite strongly in the NDA coalition, partly because of his standing as a political popular leader of his own party, Dr. Singh took his cue from the more circumscribed role that H.D. Devegowda and Aki Gujral enjoyed as heads of Union Front coalition in the mid 1990s. He was also perhaps more accepting than another prime minister might have been of his limited power over his own partymen because he saw himself as an accidental prime minister, by which he meant he was not the natural choice for the job. After all, had Sonia Gandhi not been born an Italian, she would have kept the job for herself. The fact of her alien status made it necessary for her to choose another leader, and Dr. Singh was the man she chose. Manmohan Singh had not expected to become PM. At least it can be said that he had hoped for an opportunity might one day come his way. People have often asked me whether I thought Dr. Singh was ambitious. My sense in that ambition is too strong a word to describe how he felt about his destiny. I would rather say he had faith in his own abilities and all the pride, albeit though never openly expressed, of a self made man. Even when he modestly called himself an accidental prime minister, he did not doubt that he could do the job and do it better than other leaders around Sonia. He had, over the previous 8 years, made it made his commitment made clear his commitment to active politics. A technocrat, when Narasimha Rao inducted him into the government in 1991, he did not return to that predictable world after Rao was defeated at the hustings in 1996 and later abandoned by the Congress party. Dr. Singh remained a party loyalist and a leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, participated actively in the party's political programs. He came to play the role of a second in command, even though he was not explicitly named as such. When Sonia failed to garner enough support to form a coalition government under her own leadership in 1999, Dr. Singh was asked to contest a Lok Sabha election a few months later. He may have seen this as a signal that he was being groomed for larger political office. Even though he lost that election, he did emerge as Sonia's right hand man in the years between 1999 and 2004. It was Manmohan Singh, not Arjun Singh or Pranab Mukherjee, who was by her side when she met foreign heads of government. Therefore, while he neither planned nor schemed to become prime minister, Dr. Singh was not taken by complete surprise when he got the job. This was, however, the first time ever that the Congress party would be running a coalition government in Delhi. The tough task of managing a 14-party coalition was made trickier by the fact that the Congress was to be in office with the support of from the outside of the left front, a group of left parties that had been unwavering critic of Dr. Singh's policy as finance minister. Some in the left were prepared to join the government. It was rumored that Sitaram Yechuri, a member of the Politburo of Communist Party of India Marxist CPIM, a leading constituent of the Left Front, had even voiced the hope of becoming of Minister for Railways in a left-supported and Congress-led coalition. Another member of the front, the Communist Party of India, was willing to join the government. After all, the CPI had been a part of coalition governments at the center in the past, namely those led by H.D. Devegowda and I.K. Gujral in the 1990s. And the party's senior leader Indrajit Gupta had even served as India's first communist home minister. However, the leadership of the CPIM voted the idea of left joining the government. On May 24, the new ministers took charge of their ministries. The formation and agenda of the new government was front page news every day. One morning, the media reported that a little known civil servant, TKA Nair, a member of the Indian Administrative Service belonging to the Punjab cadre, had been named to the most important administrative post in the PMO, that of a principal secretary to the PM. That surprised me. I thought the job was Montek's, but knowing the relationship between Montek and Dr. Singh, I assume a bigger job was in the works for him, should he return from Washington. The, that weekend, I took a week's holiday and flew to Hyderabad with my daughter Tanvika to celebrate my 50th birthday with my parents. My wife Rama had gone to Canada to take a research fellowship on Friday, 28th May. The day I turned 50, we were in the dining room of my parents' home when my mobile phone rang. Is it Mr. Sanjay Baru? Said an unmistakably Sarkari voice from Delhi. Principal Secretary to the PM, Dr. Nair will speak to you. Nair came on the line and introduced himself. Mr. Baru, we have never met. I'm the Principal Secretary to the PM. The PM would like to meet you. Can you come this evening? I informed him that I was in Hyderabad and would only return after the weekend. He said he would get back to me and called a few minutes later to schedule an appointment for Monday morning. That evening, when I was at a family party, I received another call from Delhi. The caller was N. Vohra, a distinguished former civil servant who had served as Home and Defense Secretary and had been Prime Minister Inder Gujral's principal secretary. I got to know Vohra intimately when he was the director of Indian International Center, when he was the director of the Indian International Center in the late 1990s, and I was the convener of the group, the center's economic affairs group. We had both been members to the National Security Advisory Board (NSAB) from 1998 to 2001 and had moreover traveled together to many foreign capitals, notably Tokyo, as part of a delegation sent by the Vajpayee government to persuade Japan to end the economic sanctions imposed on India after the nuclear test. Vora had regaled us with jokes and humorous anecdotes from his varied career in the civil and intelligence service. During long walks in Tokyo, we discovered we had similar views on many issues, and despite the several years that separated us, became good friends. Our most recent association had been members of the Mani Dixit's foreign policy group. Sanjaya, said Vora, you're meeting the PM on Monday. He will ask you to join his office. He asked me what I thought of you. I told him that you were a good fellow. Vora laughed in his characteristic nasal tone. He said he was planning to appoint you as his information advisor. I told him he had made a wise choice. I thanked Vora for his vote of confidence and returned to join the party, feeling my excitement rising at what lay ahead. My professional life had been full of twists and turns. At the age of 36, I had given up the staid world of university campus in Hyderabad, where I taught economics, and entered the rough and tumble of journalism at a time of sweeping economic and political change in India and world. Later, I had also ventured into the esoteric field of strategic policy as a member of India's NSAB. Now I would be making yet another turn, and to tell the truth, I was ready for it. Working in the PMO headed by Manmohan Singh, whom I had come to respect as a professional and human being, was an opportunity not to be missed. However, while I discreetly shared Vora's news with my parents, I did not mention it to anyone else. That day, I was more than happy to celebrate turning 50 with family and friends for whom Delhi was a distant darbar. With that, we've come to the end of chapter 1. So, uh, what have we got to understand from this chapter? Uh, First of all, it talks about the change of government in India at a time when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the prime minister, and then he kind of uh, advanced the elections, hoping that he would win because the mandate and people were in his favor. Unfortunately, while he did that, there was spate of farmer suicides in Maharashtra and Andhra. The tide changed, and the Congress-led coalition came into power. Sanjay Baru seems like a very astute man. Uh, he had rightly predicted or rightly advised or rightly opined in his editorial that Sonia Gandhi should not take up the responsibility. Instead, she should uh, head some sort of an inter-party committee, which essentially would be like a remote control running the government. And he had, uh, in the same editorial, suggested what he had suggested about 5 years back in 1999 about having Dr. Manmohan Singh take up the post of prime minister. His friends thought he was crazy to recommend that, but as it turned out, that was the right kind of decision which Sonia Gandhi also took. So India's fortunes changed. A Congress-led coalition government was formed in 2004. This While all this was happening, Sanjay Baru attended a conference in Washington, interacted with Montek Aluwalia, who was working in International Monetary Fund, had a lunch with him and his wife. And while the news was out, he expected Montek Aluwalia to become uh, a, a, take a very key role in Manmohan Singh's government. I didn't get what it was, principal secretary, I guess. And uh, and there that's about it. He comes back to India, and while he's in India, he interacts with um, Prithviraj Chauhan, who's an important minister, who gets an important ministry as Minister of State under Dr. Singh. He hears from Prithviraj that Dr. Singh was planning to retain finance. He kind of mentions this to Chidambaram, who was hoping to become a Ministry of Finance. So there are three or four key ministries which, like External Affairs, Finance, Defense, um, uh, which are part of the North and South blocks, and they form a core committee which has the most clout in the Indian government. And for Chidambaram to be not part of that core ministry, and for him it meant being finance minister, was not acceptable. So he pulled his strings and made sure that he got the ministry, which Sanjay Baru, after reporting that Dr. Singh would be retaining the finance ministry, got to hear from the from the news the next day. Then what happens? Then he goes and spends a bit of time with his folks, with his parents who are based in Hyderabad. He plans, he is celebrating his 50th birthday. His wife, meanwhile, is in Canada. He is with his daughter and his parents, and that's when he gets the call, bam, from New Delhi, where the prime minister wants to meet him. He says, "No, I cannot come now because I'm going to be here for a week." The prime minister's office fixes a meeting for him on the Monday after that week, and during a party in Hyderabad, he meets Mr. Vohra, who is a big guy. I have forgotten what he is. And Vohra tells him that the prime minister is interested in appointing you as a communication advisor, and he asked me about you, and I've recommended that you're a good guy. And so Sanjay Baru is excited, and he tells only his parents about it. He does not reveal it to anyone else. And with that, we come to the end of chapter one. So yeah, so it's been an interesting chapter, and we're going to have a lot more drama as we go on, is what I feel. Let's see. So, with this, we come to the end of the chapter. I will see you soon with chapter number two. Bye.